Hello, APUSH class, Mr. Rillo. This is Daniel Hazal. If you don't know me by now, well, never mind. Anyways, this is my list of the top 5 best and worst presidents that the United States has ever had. My one stipulation being that I will not be including any presidents from the 21st century, which essentially only includes George W. Bush and President Obama. And I was going to rant a lot, but it turns out I don't have time to rant, unfortunately. But if you have any questions as to why I put your least favorite president on the worst list and your least favorite president on my favorites list, just talk to me afterwards. I'm only going to talk about a few of the points that I wanted to, so I'll have much more to talk to you about if that's really what you want. Alright, number 5, worst, Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge is best known for being a very sleepy president, sleeping more than half a day every day. I like to call him, instead of his normal nickname of Silent Cal, which was, still pretty aptly put, I like to call him the Sloth. And his main things that he did was he passed the Hawley-Smoot tariff, which, terrible tariff. It was way too high, and it basically killed all of Europe's economy. And the real letdown about that in general is just that, we got into the Great Depression and no one was in a good place going into World War II. And I put that mainly on old Calvin Coolidge. Alright, other than that, he didn't do much. Number 5, good, Abraham Lincoln. I'm sure you all know about Abraham Lincoln. He was listed on most of the lists I looked at number 1 overall best president. I'm only putting him at 5. But he did help free the slaves. He supported the 13th Amendment. He purchased Alaska from the Russians, which netted us gold because of the Klondike Gold Rush. And he ended up giving us protection later on, because if you think about it, Russia not too friendly with us nowadays, are they? And then I like to think of him best and most fondly as a wartime president. You're probably thinking, what the Mother Teresa, Daniel? He freed the slaves. That's the most important part. He didn't technically free the slaves. That happened afterwards. But what I do like to talk about is the Emancipation Proclamation from a political standpoint, as it kept all of the foreign powers out of the Civil War. A lot of them were thinking about joining the Confederate side, but issuing that made it more of a slavery issue and ended up, making no one want to actually have to join on the Confederate side. So, good job. Good job, Lincoln. Number 4, worst, Ronald Reagan. Don't kill me. Don't. He's the Teflon president, and I think that's the best way to talk to him about, as nothing seemed to stick to him, and I've got lots of things that I wish I could talk to you about. I'll just hit on a few, though. The Star Defense Initiative, or otherwise mockingly known as Star Wars, basically put us billions of dollars into debt. And what did it do? Absolutely nothing. It was supposed to scare the Soviets and whatever, but really, they were already almost out of their communist regime, because Gorby was already issuing, or about to issue, glasnost and perestroika. So all he did was, put us into debt for really no reason. More debt than all other presidents combined up to that point. So FDR, more debt than him. TR, more debt than him. Pretty impressive, actually, if you think about it. My other main gripe with him is the Iran-Contra affair. And his defense for the Iran-Contra affair was that he slept through the meetings. Wait, hold on. So if you are lying, which there's a decent possibility, that means that you were totally okay with this devious machination of us being with our sworn nemesis, Iran. Not cool. If he is telling the truth, though, that means he's sleeping through presidential meetings. Hey, Commander-in-Chief, we have this really important thing to talk to you about. Wait, what? That's Ronnie. Way to go, man. Yeah, just good job, all around. Number 4, good. Getting ahead of myself. Woodrow Wilson. Good old Woody Wilson is known for ending the Progressive Era and being president during World War I and issuing his 14 points. which were all really good and would end up being a big play in World War II. The main one of them being the League of Nations. The League of Nations would eventually evolve into the UN, as the original League of Nations did not work, as we never actually joined it. Because Republicans, apparently. As of domestic, he issued the Federal Reserve System through the Federal Reserve Act, which made money between banks more elastic. That's a good job. That's good. Still in use today, by the way. And he also got us the Clayton Antitrust Act, which scaled down big business, and it didn't backfire on trade unions and labor unions like the Sherman Antitrust Act before it did. Number 3, and my personal least favorite president, on the bad side, Andrew Jackson. Champion of the spoils system and murderer of thousands through his Trail of Tears and the Indian Removal Act. The Indian Removal Act. You know, I mean, it's rightfully our land. Manifest destiny, man. Be in the mood. No, we just killed thousands of Indians for no real good reason. And my other main gripe with him is his dealing with the nullification crisis in South Carolina, which he had issued this giant tariff, which, I mean, he wasn't even in line with anyways. But after it all settled down, he used the Force Act, which is basically him throwing down a fist, and we're gonna, like, military you, even though you're already in line. Useless. Completely useless. It led him to being called as King Jackson by his, opponents, which I'm totally in line with. He got a reputation as the people's president. I'm not sure why, though. Good job, Jackson. Good job. Number 3, good, and the guy I guarantee you didn't expect to be on this list, Grover Cleveland. I'm a big fan of Grover Cleveland. I know most people only know him for being the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, but he actually did a lot of great stuff. He fought against big business with the Interstate Commerce Act, which helped to regulate big business, especially in the railroad industry. He was also against political machines, especially Tammany Hall, which was forming in the Democratic Party at the time. And he wanted to separate them and ended up being a very big opponent of them as his career grew on. One of my favorite things about Cleveland, despite the fact I think a great thing about him was he was renowned for his honesty, but one of his big things was he wanted to keep Hawaii independent. We had already disposed the former queen, long name, Lila something. I don't want to say it. Because, oh, Dad said it. He's cool. It was a big business ploy that we had put into place beforehand, and we disposed her, and she didn't want to talk to anyone. So we tried to at least give an independent republic to Hawaii, as they didn't want to be a part of the United States at the time. So it was a really nice and thoughtful thing that Grover Cleveland did. Number 2, bad, Warren G. Harding. Turns out that Calvin Coolidge actually isn't the only bad president during the Roaring Twenties. Oh boy. Warren G. Harding, best known for scandals extraordinaire. The best known of his scandals is the Teapot Dome scandal, and the big deal about the Teapot Dome scandal is essentially the Secretary of the Interior stole from the United States Navy, which by no one's standards is okay. No one's standards. And this is only the tip of the iceberg of the scandals. The page was literally full with scandals from his presidency, because actually not too much great happened. He died before his term was up, and that's how Coolidge became president. But he tried to put in a lot of young talent, because he even admitted he was inept. But all of his young talent seemed to be corrupt. It was actually quite impressive. I mean, I didn't know so much young talent could be so corrupt, but he found them all. I mean, color me impressed. I guess. Number 2, good, Jimmy Carter. James or Jimmy Earl Carter is, he liked to be known for being less formal, is also best known for his honesty and his foreign policy. I was quite impressed by his Camp Davis Accords, which helped ease tensions between the Arab world and Israel. And even now, there's still tensions, but just think about how bad they were back then. Wars and revolts were breaking out all over the place. And I mean, it wasn't just about the Palestinians. Everyone was upset at the time. And this was a real good step in the right direction that would end up being followed up from other presidents. Another big thing he did was he gave back the Panama Canal to the Panamanians, I guess. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, I mean, it would happen during Clinton's presidency, but he was the one who sanctioned it. So that was a good thing. And he also, the SALT II treaty, which actually never passed through both houses or Congress, but it was still honored by both Russia and the United States, as Carter had signed it before it actually went to being went through Congress. And a lot of people really knock Carter for his the Iran hostage crisis, but a little known fact apparently is the fact that he actually got them out before his presidency was over. It was on his last day, actually, when the Iran hostages came back. So that was on Carter's watch. So that wasn't even Reagan either. So another knock on him in my book. Oh boy, it just goes on and on for Reagan, doesn't it? Side note, you will notice soon that I have not put the likes of LBJ and Nixon on my list. This is primarily due to how stratified I feel about both these presidents. LBJ had the Great Society, which I think is great, equalized races, and brought medical care to the poor and the elderly. However, his political blunder of the Vietnam War, which he basically made grow way out of control, ruined him for me. I couldn't put him on the list. Nixon, I'm sure you know why I couldn't put him on the list. Something to do with a little scandal that everything's named after nowadays. But he did help scale down the Vietnam War, and he helped the environmentalist movement. And he generally was a good president, actually. But with the Watergate, you just can't put him on your good list. You just can't. Even if I said top 10, I couldn't put him on. Anyways, number 1, worst, Ulysses S. Grant. Oh boy. So, you know what I said about Warren G. Harding and all the scandals that are involved with him? Well, instead of just a page being full of them that was on his presidency page, there was literally a whole entire page devoted to Ulysses S. Grant scandals. And it didn't even include the biggest one during his presidency, being the Credit Mobilier. I know we talked about that one in class. But there were other ones. There was the whiskey ring, which actually made its way to the presidency, which was one of the few that did. Really the main problem with Grant, as was with Harding, was it wasn't him, like, doing scandalous things. It was the fact that he was so inept that he couldn't keep everyone else in line. And he was way too trusting. He put all of these... He was, like, patronage system extraordinaire. He managed to put... He didn't consult Congress at all. He just put people in without any advice. And a lot of them were, like, friends of his that weren't really fit to be in there. I read up, and historically, people only view one of his choices as actually good. So, I mean, that's a thing. So, yeah, great job. I mean, I would put Harding after Grant, but again, he just didn't have as much time to screw things up. Really his only saving grace. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, clearly, you're not sleeping on your desk right now. Number 1, FDR. Okay, you're rushing to my desk right now to kill me, aren't you? Darn it. Well, I'll finish this up anyways. But, better known by his initials FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt is who I consider to be the best president of the United States. Essentially, he was my number 4 Woodrow Wilson but way more. He went farther. He took the presidency during the Great Depression, and rather than just letting it slide and waiting for it to end like every other president before him had done, it was kind of a tradition actually. He actually tried to do stuff about it and try to help people. He did this by giving them jobs through the TVA, the WPA, the CCC, and this would give billions of people's jobs. And since the unemployment rate was so high, this really helped and fixed that. Another big thing he did, he restored faith in the banks through the Emergency Banking Act. I thought that was a big deal too. And he also tried to help out the farmers. This was eventually ruled unconstitutional, but the AAA helped the farmers who were struggling as they were hit hardest by not only the Great Depression but also the Dust Bowl. And then, of course, he is also known for his being a president during war, and he also did a great job preparing us for it. First he started with the quarantine speech, which wasn't well received, but it would eventually lead us to start being more towards becoming okay with the idea of war. We would then go on to initiate the cash and carry policy, and that actually helped the Allies rather than our previous Lend and Lease. Or no, cash and carry was the one before it. Lend-Lease was the good one. Lend-Lease is the one that he got that would actually help them. Cash and carry sucked. It didn't help anyone. Because at the time we were trying to punish big business because we thought they caused war, and it wasn't really them. Anyways, he also learned from Wilson and put the UN during the war rather than afterwards. And that would eventually let it to be passed by Congress, so we actually have it today. So I'd like to thank you for sitting through this 17-minute video. If you have any questions, again, talk to me. I'll be free to answer why I didn't put a president on either list, why they're on a list. As long as you're not strangling me while you do it, that'll be great. So thanks for watching. This is Daniel, signing out.